The July sun hadn't yet broken over the West Texas mountains when Diana Blackwell settled into her hide. The rocks still held the night's cold, pressing against her chest to the thin layer of camouflage netting. She'd been in position for 3 hours, watching the valley below through a scope that had become an extension of her own eye. 182 days in these mountains, 62 confirmed kills, 0 support. Her breathing was controlled, methodical. Each inhale counted to 4, each exhale the same. The rhythm had become automatic years ago, back when she'd had a team, back when she'd had a name that appeared on rosters, in deployment orders. Now she was just a ghost with a rifle, hunting men who thought they were untouchable. Through the scope, she tracked the convoy moving along the dirt road 3 kilometers below. 5 vehicles, dust trailing behind them like smoke signals, announcing their presence to anyone who cared to look. She cared. She'd been tracking this particular group for 6 days, watching their patterns, learning their habits, waiting for the perfect moment. The lead vehicle stopped. Men emerged, automatic rifles slung across their backs, with the casual confidence of people who'd never been seriously challenged. Cartel soldiers, mid-level enforcers for Victor Salazar's network. They thought this remote stretch of borderland belonged to them. Diana's finger rested alongside the trigger guard of her Accuracy International AX-50. Custom barrel, Schmidt and Bender scope, .338 Lapua Magnum rounds she'd loaded herself in a cave hideout 20 kilometers north. The rifle was her constant companion, the only thing in this world she trusted completely. The wind picked up, stirring the desert scrub. She read it instinctively now, after months of living in these mountains. 8 miles per hour, right to left, temperature rising as the sun climbed. At 920 meters, these factors mattered. The difference between a clean kill and a miss that would expose her position. She did the math without thinking. Hold 2.3 mils right, 4.1 mils elevation. Breathe in, breathe out. Wait for the gap between heartbeats. The rifle kicked against her shoulder with familiar force. Through the scope, she watched the target drop before the sound of the shot even reached the valley floor. The other men scattered, shouting, firing wildly in every direction except the right one. Diana was already packing her hide. 30 seconds to collapse the netting, 45 to clear the ridgeline, 2 minutes to reach the first fallback position. She'd done this so many times the movements were mechanical, muscle memory taking over while her mind was already planning the next 3 days. Connection number 47 eliminated. Salazar's network had one fewer link in the chain. As she moved through the rocks, her mind drifted where it always did after a kill. Back to El Paso, back to 2019, back to the night that had turned her from a decorated Black Ops captain into a ghost. The safe house had been quiet that night. Lieutenant James Parker had been reviewing intelligence reports, his reading glasses perched on his nose in that way that made him look more like a professor than a special operations team leader. Sergeant Maria Donnelly was cleaning weapons, her hands moving with practiced efficiency while she hummed something under her breath. Corporal Andrew Frost was sleeping in the corner, finally getting rest after a 48-hour surveillance operation. Staff Sergeant Michael Brennan stood watch at the window, alert despite 3 weeks of continuous operations. Diana had been making coffee. She remembered that detail with painful clarity. The sound of water heating, the smell of cheap grounds, the feeling that something was wrong, that the night was too quiet, that the street outside was too empty. Then the world had exploded. The breach came from 3 points simultaneously: precise, coordinated, professional. These weren't cartel soldiers making noise and hoping for the best. These were trained operators who knew exactly where each team member would be positioned. Parker had gone down first, 3 rounds to center mass before he could reach his weapon. Donnelly had made it to cover, returning fire, but Diana had heard her scream as a round tore through her spine. Frost had never woken up. Brennan had fought like a demon, taking 2 attackers with him before the third put a bullet through his skull. Diana had been hit in the shoulder, the impact spinning her around and dropping her behind the kitchen counter. She'd heard boots approaching, heard voices speaking in English with American accents, heard the methodical double taps that confirmed each of her teammates was dead. She'd played dead. Lying in her own blood, listening to her family die around her, she'd controlled her breathing and waited for the killers to leave. Parker's last words had been her name. "Diana, tell my girls I tried to." The sound had been cut off by gunfire. She'd never know what message he'd wanted her to carry to his daughters. When dawn came and the killers were finally gone, Diana had crawled through the wreckage of her team. 4 bodies, 4 friends, 4 soldiers who trusted the system to protect them. The system had failed. Someone inside had sold them out, given their location to people who wanted them dead. The official report had listed all 5 team members as KIA, classified operation, classified location, classified circumstances. Their families had received folded flags in empty coffins. Diana Blackwell had been declared dead alongside her team. She'd let them believe it. For 5 years now, she'd been hunting, first trying to understand who had betrayed them, then tracking the man who'd ordered the hit, then following the money and the connections until she'd found the spider at the center of the web. Victor Salazar, cartel leader, terrorist coordinator, the man who'd ordered the hit on her team because they'd gotten too close to his operation. 3 years of dedicated pursuit, 6 months here in the borderlands, watching his network, eliminating his people one by one, gathering intelligence that no official agency could access because she operated outside every system. No oversight, no backup, no extraction if things went wrong. Just her rifle, and the memory of 4 voices that she heard every night before sleep finally came. Diana reached her secondary camp as the sun cleared the horizon. It wasn't much. A cave opening hidden behind scrub brush, camouflage netting across the entrance, supplies she'd scavenged or stolen from cartel stashes. She lived like a guerrilla fighter in her own country, hunting enemies who thought they owned this stretch of desert. Inside the cave, she allowed herself 30 minutes to rest. Her shoulder ached, the old wound from El Paso protesting after hours of holding position. At 38, she was still in excellent condition, but 5 years of field living had taken their toll. Scars marked her body like a map of every close call, every fight, every moment she'd survived when by all rights she should have died. She pulled out her intel notebook, worn, water-stained, filled with observations written in her own shorthand code. Salazar's network spread across the page in careful detail. Names, locations, connections, patterns. She'd built the picture piece by piece, kill by kill, month by month, and now she knew something the official intelligence community didn't. Salazar wasn't just running drugs and weapons across the border. He was coordinating with terrorist cells, planning attacks on American soil. Shopping malls, airports, federal buildings, soft targets that would maximize casualties and terror. The timeline said 45 to 60 days until the first attack. Diana stared at the notebook and faced a truth she'd been avoiding for weeks. She couldn't stop this alone. The attacks would be coordinated, simultaneous, spread across multiple cities. Taking out Salazar wouldn't be enough. She needed to capture him alive, get the intelligence, dismantle the entire network. That meant help. That meant trust. That meant risking what had gotten her team killed 5 years ago. Her radio crackled, and encrypted frequencies she monitored but never used. Military traffic, SEAL team operating in the region. She'd been aware of them for 2 weeks now, careful to stay clear of their operations, maintaining her ghost status. Then she heard something that changed everything. Hawk 6, this is Hawk 2. We have eyes on the target compound. 2 hostages confirmed, both American civilians. DEA badges visible. Multiple cartel soldiers on site. They're preparing for something. Looks like an execution setup. Diana's hand froze over her notebook. DEA agents, captured, about to be killed. She knew the compound. 8 kilometers east in territory she'd been watching for weeks. The SEAL team was planning an assault. Standard hostage rescue. They'd go in hard and fast, and they'd probably succeed, but the cost would be high. The compound was fortified, the approaches exposed. Men would die on both sides. Unless someone provided overwatch from the ridgeline she'd scouted 3 days ago. Diana closed her eyes and heard Parker's voice. Not the last words, the dying words, but the teaching words from 100 training sessions. Mission first, Captain. Always mission first. But the mission is bringing people home alive. She'd spent 5 years alone, trusting no one, because trust had killed her team. But what had really killed them was being isolated, being vulnerable, being without backup when they'd needed it most. Maybe the lesson wasn't to never trust again. Maybe it was to never operate alone again. Diana packed her gear with swift efficiency: rifle, ammunition, water, medical supplies. She'd be moving fast and light, racing the sunrise to reach position before the SEALs made their move. The climb took 90 minutes, pushing her body to its limits. The old shoulder wound screamed protest, but she'd learned years ago to function through pain. Pain meant you were still alive. Pain meant you could still complete the mission. She reached position just as dawn fully broke across the valley. Below, she could see the compound clearly, 12 guards visible, probably more inside. The 2 hostages were zip-tied in the courtyard, kneeling in the dirt. A man with a video camera was setting up equipment. They were going to film the execution. Make it a propaganda piece. Not today. Diana set up her shooting rest with practice speed. Range card marked with distances and landmarks. Wind flags noted and recorded. Temperature, humidity, barometric pressure. Every variable that would affect the bullet's flight path, cataloged and compensated for. Through her scope, she found the SEAL team, 6 operators moving through the terrain with professional discipline. Good approach, using dead ground and natural cover. Their commander knew his business. They were 3 minutes from their assault position when the first guard's head exploded in a pink mist. Diana's rifle cycled smoothly, the suppressor reducing the sound to a sharp crack that echoed off the rocks. At this range, by the time anyone heard the shot and located its origin, she'd be 3 positions away. Second shot, another guard down. The courtyard erupted in chaos, soldiers shouting and firing randomly. They had no idea where the threat was coming from. Third shot, rooftop sentry. Fourth shot, the man with the video camera. The SEALs reached their assault position and held, their commander smart enough to recognize when someone was doing his job for him. Diana continued working, methodical and precise. Each shot was a separate calculation, a separate problem to solve. Wind had shifted, now 7 miles per hour. Temperature climbing. Adjust elevation 0.3 mils. Fifth shot. Sixth. Seventh. The courtyard was clear. The hostages were alive, terrified but unharmed. The SEAL team moved in swiftly, securing the perimeter, cutting the hostages free, sweeping the buildings for remaining threats. Through her scope, Diana watched the team leader. Tall, weathered face, the kind of bearing that came from decades of service. He was scanning the ridgelines, trying to locate his mysterious guardian angel. For a moment, their eyes met through the scope. Impossible at this distance, but Diana felt it anyway. Recognition between professionals. Acknowledgement of skill and purpose. Then she was moving, breaking down her hide, clearing the position before anyone could reach her. She left no trace except for 7 brass casings, carefully arranged in a pattern any operator would recognize. A calling card. A message. You're welcome. You're not alone out here. Someone's watching your back. Diana was 2 kilometers away when her radio crackled again. The SEAL commander's voice, calm and professional. Unknown friendly, this is Hawk 6. Acknowledge if you're monitoring this frequency. We owe you our thanks. Her hand hovered over the transmit button. 1 word, 1 response, and she'd break 5 years of isolation. She'd step out of the shadows and into a world where people knew she existed. Her finger moved away from the button. Not yet. Not until she understood what she was dealing with. But she kept monitoring the frequency as the SEALs completed their extraction and returned to base. She listened to their debriefing, their speculation about who had provided overwatch, their commander's order to gather intelligence on their mystery sniper. That night in her cave hideout, Diana intercepted communications that made her blood run cold. Cartel radio traffic, encrypted but using patterns she'd learned to break months ago. Salazar himself was speaking, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. The woman who has been killing my people, La Sombra Negra, the Black Shadow. She interfered today. She saved the Americans. Another voice responded, nervous. We can increase security, bring in more soldiers. No. Salazar's tone was absolute. I'm bringing in specialists, hunters, men who know how to track and kill professional operators, and I'm moving up the timeline. Moving up, the assault on the American base. We attack in 72 hours. Diana's world narrowed to that single statement. She'd been tracking communications about a planned assault, a large-scale attack on the forward operating base where the SEAL team was stationed. She'd thought they had weeks to prepare. Now they had 3 days. Salazar continued, his voice carrying dark satisfaction. The attack serves two purposes. We destroy the Americans who've been interfering with our operations, and we draw out this shadow woman. She'll try to help them, and when she does, my hunters will be waiting. And if she doesn't come, she'll come. I know her type. Honor, duty, sacrifice. All the weaknesses that get soldiers killed. She'll come, and she'll die, and we'll film it for the world to see. The transmission ended. Diana sat in darkness, her mind racing through tactical scenarios and probabilities. Salazar was right about one thing. She would come. Not because of honor or duty or any abstract concept, but because 200 American soldiers were about to walk into a trap, and she had information that could save their lives. But going to the American commander meant revealing herself, admitting she was alive, trusting someone with information that could get her killed if it reached the wrong ears. Someone had betrayed her team 5 years ago. Someone inside the system had sold them out to Salazar. That person might still be active, might still be in a position to do it again. But the alternative was letting 200 soldiers die because she was too afraid to trust. Diana pulled out her tactical tablet and began reviewing everything she'd gathered on Commander Wade Garrison. Service record obtained through careful hacking of military databases, 22 years in the SEALs, multiple combat deployments, exemplary leadership record. Married once, divorced, 2 grown children, known for integrity, for standing by his people, for making hard calls when necessary. For the next 48 hours, she watched him. Not through a scope this time, but through careful observation. She infiltrated the base perimeter at night, staying in shadows, watching how Garrison interacted with his team, how he handled stress, how he treated subordinates, how he made decisions. She watched him sit with a young SEAL who was struggling after a difficult mission, not offering platitudes, but just being present. She watched him stand up to a senior officer who wanted to take unnecessary risks. She watched him at 0200 hours, alone in his office, studying maps and intel reports, carrying the weight of command with quiet determination. Parker had been like that, a leader who understood that command was responsibility, not privilege. Maybe, just maybe, Wade Garrison was someone who would understand what she was about to tell him. On the third night, Diana made her decision. She watched Garrison's patterns, learned his routine, and positioned herself on the base's observation deck at 0200 hours, the place where he went when he couldn't sleep, when he needed to think, when he wanted to see the mountains that held so many threats and so many unknowns. She waited in the shadows near the northern corner, where the security lights didn't quite reach, waited as he climbed the stairs, coffee cup in hand, and moved to the railing to scan the dark horizon with night vision binoculars. Waited until he was alone, vulnerable, and she was close enough that any sudden move would end badly for both of them. Then she spoke, her voice low and calm. "Commander Wade Garrison, we need to talk." He moved fast for a man in his 50s, hand dropping to his sidearm, body pivoting to face the threat. But he didn't draw. Something in her posture, her bearing, her deliberate visibility told him this wasn't an ambush. "Who are you?" His voice was steady, controlled. Good. She needed steady right now. Diana stepped forward, just enough for the ambient light to illuminate her face. Weathered, scarred, with eyes that had seen too much and carried too many ghosts. "I'm Captain Diana Blackwell. July 2019, I was declared killed in action during a classified operation in El Paso. I've been dead for 5 years." She paused, watching his reaction. "And I'm here to tell you that in 72 hours, you and everyone on this base are going to be dead unless you listen to what I have to say." Garrison's hand stayed near his weapon, but his eyes were sharp, evaluating. "That's quite an opening. You have about 30 seconds to convince me not to call security." Diana reached slowly into her vest and pulled out a tablet, extending it toward him. "Victor Salazar, cartel leader, terrorist coordinator. He's planning a coordinated assault on this base with over 200 fighters. Professional soldiers, not cartel thugs. The attack is designed to look like a standard raid, but its real purpose is to draw me out. You. Me." Diana's voice was flat, emotionless. "I've been operating in the borderlands for 6 months. 3 years, total tracking Salazar. I've eliminated 62 members of his network. He's bringing in specialist hunters to kill me, and he's using your base as bait." Garrison took the tablet, his eyes scanning the intelligence displayed there. Communications intercepts, movement patterns, equipment manifests. The kind of detailed intelligence that took months of patient work to gather. "This is comprehensive." He looked up at her. "If you're really Captain Blackwell, if you're really who you claim to be, then why come to me now? Why reveal yourself after 5 years?" Diana's jaw tightened. "Because Salazar isn't just running drugs and weapons. He's coordinating terrorist attacks on American soil. Multiple cities, soft targets, 45 to 60 days from now. Shopping malls, airports, federal buildings, thousands of casualties. And you have proof of this? On that tablet, financial records, communications with known terrorist cells, training camp locations. Everything I've gathered over 3 years of hunting him." Diana met his eyes. "I can't stop those attacks alone, Commander. I need Salazar captured alive. I need his intelligence network intact. And the only way to do that is to use his assault on your base as an opportunity." Garrison was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "You want to use my men as bait?" "No, I want to coordinate with your men so we can both accomplish our missions. You defend the base. I capture Salazar while he's focused on directing the assault from his command post in the mountains." Solo infiltration of a command post in hostile territory. Garrison's voice carried the professional skepticism of a man who'd seen too many operations go wrong. "That's a suicide mission, Captain." "I've been running suicide missions for 5 years, Commander. I'm still here." He couldn't argue with that. Instead, he pulled out his own tablet and began cross-referencing her intelligence with his own reports. Diana watched him work, saw the moment he realized everything she'd told him was accurate, was actionable, was exactly what his intelligence officers had been trying to piece together for months. "If you're really Diana Blackwell," he said slowly, "then I need verification. Something that proves you're who you claim to be." Diana reached into her vest again, more slowly this time. Her hand emerged with 4 dog tags on separate chains. She held them out, watching Garrison's face as he read the names. Lieutenant James Parker, Sergeant Maria Donnelly, Corporal Andrew Frost, Staff Sergeant Michael Brennan. "These were my team," Diana said, her voice finally cracking with emotion. "These were my family, We were investigating Salazar's network in 2019. Someone betrayed us. They hit us at 300 hours with military precision. They knew exactly where each of us would be positioned. Garrison examined Parker's dog tag, and Diana saw his expression change. There's a bullet hole. 9mm round, close range, execution style. Diana's voice was hollow. Cartel uses 7.62 rifles. Whoever killed Parker used an American service pistol. Jesus. Garrison looked at the other tags, then back at Diana. You're saying Americans were part of the hit team? I'm saying someone with access to classified information sold my team to Salazar. Someone who knew our location, our team composition, our defensive setup. Someone who ensured we'd all be listed as KIA so there'd be no investigation. Diana took the tags back, holding them like sacred relics. I stayed dead because I needed to hunt without interference, without the person who betrayed us knowing I was still alive. Garrison was quiet for a long moment. Then he pulled out his radio and keyed a specific frequency. Lieutenant Callahan, this is Garrison. I need you to verify some casualty records. Classified operation, July 2019, El Paso. Team designation, Shadow 7. 5 personnel listed as KIA. The radio crackled. Sir, that will take some time to access. Those files are above your clearance, I know, but I'm betting you can get into them anyway, Bridget. You've done it before when necessary. A pause. Give me 20 minutes, sir. Garrison looked at Diana. We wait. If your story checks out, we talk. If it doesn't, you're in custody, and we're having a very different conversation. Fair enough. Diana moved to the railing, looking out at the dark mountains where Salazar was planning his assault. For what it's worth, Commander, I understand your caution. Trust got my team killed. I haven't trusted anyone since. Then why trust me now? Diana glanced at him. I watched you for 48 hours. How you lead, how you treat your people, how you handle pressure. You remind me of Parker. He was my team leader, the man who taught me everything I know. Her voice softened. He died trying to give me a message for his daughters. I never got to hear what it was, but I know what kind of man he was. The kind who puts mission first, but never forgets the people under his command are human beings, not assets. That's why you helped us today, the hostage rescue. That's why I've been providing overwatch for your operations for 2 weeks. I can't just watch Americans die when I have the capability to prevent it. Diana turned to face him fully. That's also why I'm here now, because 200 soldiers are about to walk into a trap, and honor demands I do something about it. The radio crackled again. Sir, this is Callahan. Those records, they're real. 5 personnel KIA, classified circumstances, El Paso 2019. Serial numbers on those dog tags match casualty files. Captain Diana Blackwell is listed as Team Second in Command, confirmed dead. A pause. Sir, if someone's claiming to be her, they're standing right here, Lieutenant, and I'm inclined to believe them. Garrison studied Diana with new understanding. You've been out there alone for 5 years, living off the land, hunting one of the most dangerous men in the Western Hemisphere, with no support and no backup. That's not just dedication, Captain. That's obsession. Call it what you want, Commander. Salazar killed my team. He's planning attacks that will kill thousands of Americans. I'm the only person who's been tracking him long enough to know where he'll be and when. Diana's voice hardened. So yes, it's personal, but it's also necessary. And right now, our missions align. Garrison was quiet for another moment, then made his decision. Show me your plan. If it's sound, we'll work together. If it's suicide, I'll lock you up for your own good and mine. Diana pulled up tactical maps on her tablet. Salazar will direct the assault from here. She indicated a mountain command post 12 kilometers northeast of the base. Fortified position, natural defenses on 3 sides, only one viable approach. He'll have security, probably a dozen soldiers minimum. And you plan to assault that position alone while 200 fighters are attacking my base? Not assault, infiltrate. Diana zoomed in on the terrain. There's a cliff face on the western side, 280 feet, nearly vertical. No one expects an approach from that direction because it's considered impossible. Because it is impossible. For most people, Diana met his eyes. I've been climbing these mountains for 6 months, Commander. I know every route, every handhold, every weakness. I can reach that position while Salazar is focused on directing the assault. Once I'm inside, I'll have surprise and superior position. Against a dozen armed guards, I've faced worse odds. Garrison studied the map, his professional mind evaluating the plan from every angle. You'll need support, extraction at minimum, communications backup, medical standby. All I need is for your team to make the assault look genuine. Make Salazar believe he's winning long enough for me to reach him. Once I have him secured, then you can break contact and transition to extraction support. You're asking me to deliberately make my men appear vulnerable. I'm asking you to trust me the way I'm trusting you right now. Diana's voice carried 5 years of isolation and pain. I know what I'm asking. I know the risk. But if we don't take Salazar now, those terrorist attacks happen in 6 weeks. How many Americans die then, Commander? How many malls get hit? How many airports? Garrison closed his eyes briefly, the weight of command pressing down on him. When he opened them, his decision was clear. We do this, we do it professionally. Full coordination, proper planning, backup options if things go wrong. You're not operating alone anymore, Captain. You're part of a team. Diana felt something crack inside her chest. A team. She hadn't been part of a team since Parker and the others had died. The word carried weight she'd forgotten existed. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't thank me yet. We still have to survive this. Garrison extended his hand. Welcome back from the dead, Captain Blackwell. Diana shook his hand, feeling the calluses of a man who still trained with weapons despite his rank, who still led from the front despite decades of service. Parker's hand had felt like that. There's one more thing you need to know, Diana said. The person who betrayed my team 5 years ago. They're still out there, still active, still in a position to leak information. Garrison's expression darkened. You're saying there's a mole in the intelligence community. I'm saying someone with high-level access sold my team to Salazar and has been protecting him ever since. Someone who'll know I'm alive the moment I surface officially. Diana pulled out the tablet again, showing him encrypted communications. Salazar refers to his inside contact as Shepard. I haven't been able to identify them yet, but they're the reason I stayed dead, the reason I couldn't come forward until now. If Shepard finds out you're alive, they'll try to kill me again, or leak my position to Salazar, or compromise whatever operation we're running. Diana's jaw set. That's why this mission has to happen fast, before Shepard realizes I've made contact, before they can interfere. Garrison nodded slowly. 72 hours. We plan, we coordinate, we execute. No communications outside a very small circle. No official reports until Salazar is in custody. Agreed. They spent the next hour going over details, synchronizing watches, establishing communication protocols. As the sky began to lighten toward dawn, Garrison finally asked the question Diana had been expecting. Why now? Why reveal yourself after 5 years? You could have stayed dead, stayed safe, walked away from all of this. Diana touched the dog tags hanging beneath her vest. Because Parker taught me that mission comes first, but the mission is bringing people home alive. My team didn't come home. Your team will. And if I can stop those terrorist attacks in the process, she looked at the mountains where Salazar was planning his assault. Then maybe Parker and the others didn't die for nothing. They'd be proud of you, Captain. They'd be alive if I'd been better at my job. They'd be alive if someone hadn't betrayed them, Garrison corrected firmly. Don't carry guilt for someone else's treason. Diana didn't respond. She'd been carrying that guilt for 5 years. It was as much a part of her as the scars on her body, the calluses on her hands, the shadows under her eyes. Guilt had kept her moving when exhaustion said to stop, had kept her hunting when logic said to quit, had kept her alive when death would have been easier. As she prepared to leave, to return to her mountain hideouts for the final planning phase, Garrison called after her. "Captain, one more question." She turned back. "When this is over, when Salazar's in custody and the attacks are prevented, what then? You've been dead for 5 years. You've been living one mission at a time. What happens when the mission's complete?" Diana was quiet for a long moment. She hadn't thought that far ahead, hadn't allowed herself to imagine a future beyond the next shot, the next movement, the next hunt. "I don't know," she finally admitted. "I haven't existed as a person in 5 years, just as a weapon pointed at Salazar. When he's gone—" She trailed off, realizing she genuinely had no answer. "Then maybe it's time to come back from the dead completely," Garrison said. "Rank restored, name cleared, life rebuilt. You've earned that much, Captain." Diana looked at him, at this man who'd trusted her based on evidence and instinct, who'd agreed to risk his people on her intelligence, who'd offered her the first real human connection she'd had in 5 years. "Maybe," she said softly, "if we survive." "We'll survive, and when we do, I expect you to render a proper salute, not as a ghost, but as a captain in the United States military." Diana's chest constricted with emotion she couldn't quite name. "I don't have a rank to salute with, Commander. Officially, I'm still dead." "Then I guess we'll have to fix that too." She left before the emotion could overwhelm her, moving through the base perimeter like smoke, disappearing into the mountains before full dawn arrived. But for the first time in 5 years, Diana Blackwell wasn't completely alone. Somewhere behind her, Wade Garrison was planning an operation that depended on trusting a dead woman. Somewhere in those mountains, Victor Salazar was preparing an assault that would bring everything to a head. And somewhere in the shadows of the intelligence community, Shepard was watching, waiting, ready to betray again. The next 72 hours would determine whether Diana's 5-year hunt ended in victory or became just another classified failure buried in secret files. She touched the dog tags under her vest one more time. "Mission first," she whispered to Parker's memory. "Always mission first." Then she was gone, a shadow moving through shadows, hunting the man who'd taken everything from her. The endgame had begun. The 72 hours became 48, then 24. Intelligence intercepts showed Salazar moving up his timeline, pushing his forces into position faster than anticipated. Diana received the update through encrypted burst transmission at 0200 hours, 2 days after her meeting with Garrison. She was already in motion before the transmission ended. The trek to Salazar's command post was 14 kilometers through terrain that would break most operators. Diana moved through it like water flowing downhill, finding the path of least resistance, conserving energy for what lay ahead. Her pack weighed 45 pounds, custom rifle, 200 rounds of ammunition, water for 3 days, medical supplies, climbing gear, communications equipment, everything she needed to complete the mission or die trying. The mountains were quiet in the pre-dawn darkness. Somewhere behind her, Garrison's SEAL team was preparing defensive positions around the base, making ready for an assault they knew was coming. Somewhere ahead, Salazar was coordinating with 240 fighters, positioning them for maximum impact, confident that his trap would catch the ghost who'd been hunting him. Diana climbed steadily, her breathing controlled despite the elevation and the load. Her left shoulder ached with every movement, the old wound from El Paso protesting after 5 years of abuse. She'd learned to function through pain. Pain was just information. It told you that you were still alive, still capable, still in the fight. Parker's voice echoed in her memory as she climbed. One of his favorite sayings during training exercises that push them past their limits. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Rush and you die. Move with purpose and the mission gets done. She'd been rushing for 5 years. Tonight she needed to be smooth. The sky was beginning to lighten when she reached the base of the cliff face. 280 feet of near vertical rock, minimal handholds, exposure to wind and weather. The kind of climb that professional mountaineers would study for days before attempting. Diana had 90 minutes to reach the top before Salazar's assault began. She began her ascent in darkness, fingers finding purchase in cracks and depressions that were invisible to the eye. Static rope, mechanical ascenders, careful weight distribution. Each movement calculated, each handhold tested before committing. At 50 feet up, the old shoulder wound began screaming. She breathed through it, adjusted her technique to favor the right side, kept climbing. Donnelly's voice joined Parker's in her memory. The team's tech specialist had also been the team optimist, always finding something to joke about, even in the worst situations. You worry too much, Captain. Trust your training, trust your instincts, and if all else fails, trust that you're too stubborn to die. At 100 feet, Diana paused at a narrow ledge to rest. Her fingers were bleeding, small cuts from sharp rock edges. She flexed her hands, working circulation back into the muscles, then continued upward. The sky was lighter now, dawn approaching fast, too fast. At 150 feet, the wind picked up. She pressed herself against the rock face, waiting for the gust to pass, then resumed climbing. Her arms trembled with fatigue, but she'd trained for this. 5 years of living in these mountains, climbing every peak, learning every route. Her body knew what to do, even when her mind wanted to quit. Frost's voice came to her now, the team medic who'd always worried about everyone else's well-being. Remember to breathe, Captain. Proper breathing is half the battle. The other half is not dying. At 200 feet, Diana allowed herself to think about what waited at the top. Salazar's command post, a dozen or more guards, fortified positions, and the man himself. The mission objective, the reason for 5 years of hell. At the summit, Brennan's voice completed the chorus of ghosts. The team's breacher, the one who died fighting 4 men at once, buying seconds for the rest of them. Violence of action, Captain. When it's time to fight, fight like the devil himself is chasing you. Because he probably is. Diana pulled herself over the final edge and lay flat on the rocky ground, controlling her breathing, listening for any sign that her approach had been detected. Nothing. The guards were facing outward, watching the valley and the approaches they considered vulnerable. No one was watching the cliff face that couldn't be climbed. She checked her watch. 0520 hours. The assault on Garrison's base would begin at 0545. 25 minutes to get into position, establish her hide, and prepare for what came next. Diana moved like a shadow along the ridgeline, staying low, using every bit of cover. The command post was a stone building built into the mountainside, natural camouflage and man-made fortification combined. 16 guards visible from her current position. No, 18. 2 more had just emerged from the building's entrance. Through her rifle scope, she could see inside through a lit window. Salazar stood at a table covered with maps and communications equipment, directing his forces via satellite radio. Even at 420 meters, Diana recognized him from intelligence photos. The man who'd ordered the hit on her team. The man responsible for Parker's death, Donnelly's death, Frost's death, Brennan's death. Her hand trembled slightly on the rifle. The first time in 5 years that her body had betrayed her training. She forced herself to breathe, to center, to remember what Parker had taught her. Mission first. Always mission first. Capturing Salazar alive meant stopping terrorist attacks that would kill thousands. Revenge was secondary to mission. It had to be. Diana found a position among the rocks with clear sight lines to the command post and the valley beyond. She could see Garrison's base in the distance, small and vulnerable looking in the early morning light. The SEAL team would be in position now, waiting for the storm to break. Her radio crackled with encrypted burst transmission. Garrison's voice, calm and professional. "Shadow, this is Hawk 6. We're in position, waiting on your signal." Diana keyed her radio once. Acknowledgement without words. She was in position too. The trap was set. Now they just had to survive what came next. At 05:45 hours, Salazar's assault began. Diana watched through her scope as 240 fighters emerged from concealed positions around the base perimeter. Professional movement, coordinated timing, proper fire, and maneuver tactics. These weren't cartel thugs playing soldier. These were trained fighters, many with military backgrounds, equipped with modern weapons and communications gear. Rocket-propelled grenades streaked toward the base defenses. Machine gun fire raked the perimeter walls. Mortar rounds began falling in carefully plotted patterns. It was a proper military assault, the kind that would overwhelm most defensive positions through sheer volume of fire. But Garrison's team wasn't most defenders. The SEALs returned fire with disciplined accuracy, holding their positions while appearing to be gradually overwhelmed. The fighting withdrawal they'd planned looked convincingly desperate from Diana's vantage point. If she hadn't known it was choreographed, she'd have believed the base was falling. Salazar stood at his window, watching through binoculars, a smile visible even at this distance. He thought he was winning, thought his trap was working exactly as planned. Diana began counting guards around the command post. 18 confirmed, but the assault below had drawn some of them forward to observation positions. 14 remaining at the immediate perimeter. Better odds, but still impossible for a frontal assault. She settled in to wait. Patience was the sniper's greatest weapon. Patience and the willingness to take the shot when it mattered most. At 6:15 hours, everything changed. Diana spotted movement on the ridgeline to her east. 8 figures moving with professional discipline, not toward the command post, but toward her general area. They were still 2 kilometers out, but their course was unmistakable. They were hunting. She keyed her radio. "Hawk 6, Shadow. I have 8 hostiles moving on my position. Professional movement, possible hunter team." Garrison's response was immediate. "Shadow, can you evade?" Diana assessed the terrain, the timing, the mission requirements. If she moved now, she'd lose her position on the command post. Salazar would slip away. The mission would fail. But if she stayed, she'd be fighting 8 professionals while trying to maintain her hide. "Negative on evasion," she transmitted. "Mission priority. I'll handle the hunters." "Shadow, those are not acceptable odds." "They're the odds I have, Hawk 6, proceeding with mission." Diana began preparing. She left obvious tracks leading southeast, away from her actual position, created a false hide that would draw initial attention, then repositioned to a rocky outcrop 380 meters from her decoy position with clear fields of fire. The hunter team reached her false trail at 06:45 hours. Diana watched through her scope as they examined the tracks, made hand signals, and began moving in tactical formation along the false path. Professional, disciplined, dangerous. She let them get 200 meters past her position before taking her shot. The suppressed rifle made a sharp crack that echoed off the rocks. The rearmost hunter dropped without a sound. The team scattered immediately, seeking cover, bringing weapons to bear on the direction they thought the shot had come from. They were wrong by 90 degrees. Diana was already repositioning, moving to a new firing point before they could locate her muzzle flash. She counted to 20, letting them settle into their new positions, letting them think they'd found cover. Then she fired again. Hunter number 2 went down. 440 meters, accounting for wind and elevation. Clean hits center mass. The remaining 6 were professionals, though. They didn't panic, didn't freeze. They began a systematic search pattern, moving in bounds, covering each other, using terrain intelligently. Diana found herself genuinely impressed. These men knew their business. In another life, they might have been allies. In this life, they were obstacles between her and mission completion. The third hunter got close, too close. She spotted him flanking her position, moving with the patience of someone who understood mountain warfare. Diana abandoned her rifle, drawing her knife as he crested the rocks above her hide. The fight was brief and brutal. He was bigger, stronger, with reach and weight advantage. But Diana had been living in these mountains for 6 months, had been fighting for survival for 5 years, and had absolutely no intention of dying before completing her mission. She took a knife, cut across her left forearm, felt the warm blood soaking her sleeve, but her counterstrike found his throat. He went down gurgling, and Diana was moving again before his body stopped twitching. Back to her rifle. Diana had burned through 30 rounds already, 170 remaining, 5 hunters still active. The assault on Garrison's base was intensifying, the sounds of combat echoing across the valley. Time was running out. Diana repositioned to a cliff edge with 360-degree visibility. Dangerous exposure, but it gave her the ability to see threats from any direction. She spotted hunter number 4 trying to circle to her previous position. 520-meter shot, upward angle, crosswind. She compensated, breathed, fired, hit. Hunter number 5 appeared in her scope, but he'd learned from watching his teammates die. He moved erratically, using cover, never presenting a clean shot for more than a second. Diana waited. Patience. Always patience. He made his mistake at 07:15 hours, pausing to check on a fallen comrade. 3 seconds of stillness. Diana's bullet found him at 480 meters. 3 hunters remaining, and they'd stopped moving toward her. They were pulling back, regrouping, reassessing. Smart. They knew they were outmatched at range. They'd wait for her to come to them, or wait for reinforcements. Diana checked her tactical situation. The assault below was entering its second hour. Garrison's team was executing their withdrawal perfectly, making it look desperate while maintaining actual control. But they couldn't sustain it forever. She needed to move on the command post soon. Her radio crackled, Garrison's voice tight with stress. "Shadow, we're taking casualties. 2 wounded, 1 serious. How much longer?" Diana looked at the 3 remaining hunters, then at the command post 400 meters away. Salazar was still visible in the window, still directing his assault, still confident in his victory. "Hawk 6, I need fire support. Quick reaction force if you can spare it." "Negative, Shadow. We're fully engaged. Cannot break contact without compromising the defensive deception." Diana had expected that answer. She keyed her radio again. "Understood. I'm moving on the objective. Will advise when I have the package." "Shadow, you still have 3 hostiles in your area." "I'm aware, Hawk 6, Shadow out." Diana made her decision. She couldn't wait for the hunters to leave or be eliminated. The mission timeline demanded action now. She'd have to accept the risk and move. She broke from cover at 07:25 hours, moving fast and low toward the command post. The remaining hunters saw her immediately. Gunfire erupted behind her, rounds snapping past her head and impacting the rocks around her. She didn't return fire, just ran, using every bit of cover, conserving ammunition for the command post assault. 200 meters from the building, the perimeter guards spotted her. More gunfire, better aim this time. Diana went to ground behind a boulder, breathing hard, assessing her options. 14 guards between her and Salazar. 3 hunters closing from behind. Limited ammunition, multiple wounds, and absolutely no backup. Parker's voice in her memory. "When the odds are impossible, Captain, that just means you haven't found the right angle yet." Diana pulled a fragmentation grenade from her vest. Not standard equipment, but she'd taken it from a dead cartel soldier 3 weeks ago. She'd been saving it for a moment like this. She threw it toward the command post's roof, where 4 guards were positioned with a heavy machine gun. The grenade arced through the morning air, a perfect throw that landed exactly where she'd aimed. The explosion was spectacular, eliminating the rooftop position and creating enough chaos that the remaining guards lost focus for precious seconds. Diana used those seconds. She sprinted forward, rifle up, firing as she moved. 2 guards down. 3. The survivors were scrambling for cover, trying to bring weapons to bear on this demon who'd appeared from nowhere. 4 guards down. 5. Diana's rifle clicked empty after the 5th guard. She transitioned to her sidearm without breaking stride, muscle memory taking over while her conscious mind tracked threats and calculated angles. The Glock held 15 rounds when fully loaded. She'd topped it off before the approach. 6 guards down. 7. Return fire found her. A round grazed her right thigh, burning like liquid fire. She stumbled but kept moving, kept shooting. 8 guards down. The remaining guards finally organized a coherent defense. Diana went to ground behind a stone wall, ejecting her empty magazine, slamming in her last spare. 15 fresh rounds, 9 guards still up, plus 3 hunters somewhere behind her. She heard boots behind her. The hunters, they'd caught up, were closing in to finish what the guards had started. Diana was trapped between 2 forces, wounded, running low on ammunition, and still 40 meters from the command post entrance. Her radio crackled again. Not Garrison this time. A different voice, younger, urgent. Unknown friendly, this is Hawk 2. We see your situation. QRF inbound your position. 3 minutes. Diana keyed her radio with bloody fingers. Negative, Hawk 2. Can't wait 3 minutes. Going in now. Shadow, wait for support. But Diana was already moving. She'd spent 5 years preparing for this moment. 5 years hunting, surviving, becoming a weapon pointed at Victor Salazar. She wasn't going to wait now, not when he was 40 meters away, not when Parker and Donnelly and Frost and Brennan were watching from whatever afterlife soldiers went to. She charged the command post entrance, firing as she moved. 9 guards down. 10. A round punched through her left shoulder, spinning her around, the same shoulder that had been wounded in El Paso, that had ached for 5 years, that had just climbed 280 feet of cliff face. Diana roared with pain and rage and determination, kept firing. 11 guards down. 12. The entrance was clear. She was inside, moving through the building's interior. Her sidearm now had 6 rounds remaining after the approach firefight. She'd need to make every shot count. A guard appeared from a side room, bringing his rifle up. Diana was faster. 2 rounds center mass. 13 down. 4 rounds left. 1 round for each corner she had to clear. 1 round for Salazar, if it came to that. The command room door was ahead. She could hear Salazar's voice inside, shouting orders into his radio, still directing the assault, still thinking he was winning. Diana kicked the door open and found herself facing 2 bodyguards with automatic weapons, and Salazar himself standing behind a desk, eyes wide with genuine surprise. For a frozen moment, no one moved. Then everything happened at once. The bodyguards raised their weapons. Diana shot the first one with her third-to-last round, dropped her pistol as it clicked empty, and dove behind a heavy wooden table as the second bodyguard opened fire. Splinters exploded around her. She grabbed the dead guard's rifle from where it had fallen, checked the magazine by weight and feel. Nearly full. She rolled, came up shooting. The second bodyguard went down. 14 guards eliminated. Salazar was moving toward a door at the back of the room. Diana intercepted him, driving her shoulder into his midsection, taking them both to the ground. He was stronger than she'd expected, fighting like a man who'd spent years in combat. They rolled across the floor, each trying for advantage. Salazar got his hands around her throat. Diana saw stars, felt her vision narrowing. She drove her thumbs into his eyes, felt him scream and release his grip. Then she had him pinned, her forearm across his windpipe, her weight keeping him down. "Victor Salazar," she gasped, blood streaming from multiple wounds. "You're under arrest for terrorism, murder, and crimes against the United States." He laughed, actually laughed with her forearm crushing his throat. You think you've won? You think taking me ends anything? I think it's a start. Salazar's smile was vicious. Your friend Shepard says hello. He's been watching you, waiting for you to surface. And now that you've revealed yourself, he managed to gesture weakly toward a tablet on the desk. He's already been informed. Diana felt ice in her stomach. She grabbed the tablet with her free hand, saw the encrypted communications log. Recent messages, very recent, some time-stamped within the last 30 minutes. Ghost confirmed in field, engaging at command post. All units converge. The last message was 2 minutes old. Shepard isn't just watching, Salazar wheezed. He's here, at your precious base, feeding me real-time intelligence. And he knows you're alive now, Captain Blackwell, knows exactly where you are and who you're working with. Diana's world narrowed to that tablet, those messages, the implications spreading like poison through her mission. Someone at Garrison's base was Shepard. Someone who'd been feeding information to Salazar throughout the assault. Someone who now knew she was alive and could eliminate her before she could expose them. Footsteps thundered in the hallway. Diana raised the captured rifle, ready to fight one more time. But the faces that appeared in the doorway were American. SEAL team, weapons up, moving with professional precision. And leading them was Commander Wade Garrison himself. Captain Blackwell, he said, taking in the carnage, the blood, her wounds. Hell of a job. Diana didn't lower her weapon, couldn't lower it. Because somewhere in Garrison's team or command structure was Shepard. And until she knew who, she couldn't trust anyone. Garrison saw her hesitation, understood it immediately. Tyler, Williams, Drake, stay outside. Secure the perimeter. No one gets in or out. The 3 SEALs nodded and withdrew. That left just Garrison, Diana, and the captured Salazar. He told you about Shepard, Garrison said quietly. It wasn't a question. Diana nodded, not taking her eyes off him. Someone at your base, someone who's been feeding him information during the assault. Someone who now knows I'm alive. Then I guess we better get you back to base and figure out who before they can do anything about it. Garrison extended his hand. But first, let's get you some medical attention. You look like hell, Captain. Diana wanted to trust him, wanted to believe that Parker's ghost had guided her to someone worthy. But trust had killed her team once before. Could she risk it again? Her body made the decision for her. Blood loss, exhaustion, and adrenaline crash hit simultaneously. The rifle slipped from her fingers as the room tilted sideways. Garrison caught her before she hit the floor. I've got you, Captain. I've got you. Diana tried to speak, to warn him, to say something about Shepard and danger and betrayal. But darkness was closing in, pulling her down into unconsciousness. Her last thought before the darkness took her completely was of Parker's dog tags, pressing against her chest where they'd hung for 5 years. She'd captured Salazar, completed the primary mission. But the secondary mission, finding Shepard and getting justice for her team, was just beginning. And this time, she wouldn't be hunting alone. The helicopter extraction was a blur of noise and pain. Diana drifted in and out of consciousness, aware of voices around her, hands working on her wounds, the vibration of rotor blades. Someone was calling for a medic. Someone else was securing Salazar. Garrison's voice cut through the confusion, calm and authoritative, keeping his team focused. When the helicopter touched down at the base, Diana forced her eyes open. Through the haze of blood loss and shock, she saw Colonel Thorne waiting on the landing pad, saw Lieutenant Callahan running toward them with a medical team, saw dozens of soldiers, some wounded, some exhausted, all staring at the ghost who'd appeared from the mountains. And somewhere among them, Shepard was watching, waiting, planning how to finish what had been started 5 years ago in El Paso. Diana's hand found Garrison's arm as they carried her toward the medical facility. "Commander," she whispered, Trust no one. Shepard is here. I know, Garrison replied quietly, and we're going to find them, Captain, together. Diana let herself be carried away. Let the medics take over. Let exhaustion finally claim her. But even as unconsciousness pulled her under, one thought remained crystal clear. The hunt wasn't over. It had only just entered its final phase. And this time, the prey was someone who thought they were untouchable. This time, Diana had allies. This time, Shepard was going to pay for 5 years of blood and death and betrayal. Mission first, always mission first. But right after mission came justice. And Captain Diana Blackwell had both in her sights now. Diana woke in the base medical facility 16 hours after extraction. The room was small, sterile, with security cameras in 2 corners and a SEAL standing guard outside the door. Her body was a catalog of pain. Shoulder wounds stitched and bandaged. Thigh wound cleaned and dressed. Forearm laceration bound. Ribs taped where she'd taken impacts during the firefight. Every breath hurt. Every movement was agony. She'd felt worse in El Paso, bleeding out while listening to her team die. The door opened. Commander Garrison entered, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Diana without comment, then sat in the chair beside her bed. Salazar is in custody, he said, secure holding, isolated from all communications. After interrogation yesterday, we moved him to maximum security detention. Separate cell block, reinforced door, no windows. 2 guards outside, cameras inside, no communication devices within 50 meters. Garrison's jaw tightened. He's as secure as we can make him. Diana sipped the coffee. It was terrible, but it was hot and it was real. Until Shepard makes a move. Until then, we need to move fast. Diana set down the coffee cup, her hand steadier than it had been in the helicopter. How long before we interrogate Salazar? Already did it, Garrison said, while you were under sedation. Couldn't wait. Figured out who Shepard is. Diana's eyes snapped to his. Who? Let me back up. Yesterday, while you were unconscious, we started the interrogation. Lieutenant Callahan and I handled it personally. Small circle like we discussed. Garrison pulled out his tablet, showing her the interrogation transcript. Diana read quickly, her mind cataloging every detail. The bluff about voice analysis had worked. Salazar had broken, thinking they were close to identifying Shepard anyway. He'd given them everything. Chaplain Edmund Morse, Diana said, reading the name. Retired major, works as civilian chaplain contractor. That's him. Garrison pulled up a personnel file. Been visiting this base for 3 months. Moves between multiple installations. Perfect cover for intelligence gathering. Diana read the file, and ice spread through her veins. His son, Richard Morse Jr., applied to Special Operations in 2016, rejected during psychological screening. Rejection signed by then-Lieutenant Diana Blackwell. Garrison finished quietly. Son committed suicide in 2017. Father blamed you. Found his revenge by selling your team's location to Salazar. 5 years of hunting, and the betrayal came down to a father's grief twisted into murderous rage. Diana closed her eyes, seeing a young man's face in her memory. Richard Morse. Unstable. Dangerous. Would have gotten his team killed. She'd made the right call. The only call. But it had cost 4 good soldiers their lives anyway. Where is Morse now? Diana's voice was deadly quiet. We're watching him. He doesn't know we know. Thinks he's safe. Garrison leaned forward. Colonel Thorne is announcing a formal reinstatement ceremony for you. Tomorrow. Full dress uniforms, entire base attendance. The works. We're using me as bait. We're giving Morse a choice. Run or make a move. Garrison's expression was grim. Either way, we'll have him. Diana considered the tactical situation. He'll go for Salazar. Kill him before he can testify. Destroy evidence, then disappear. That's what I'd do, but we're ready for it. Garrison stood. Rest now. Tomorrow you get your rank back, and we get justice for your team." After Garrison left, Diana stared at the ceiling. Edmund Morse, a chaplain, someone soldiers trusted with their deepest fears, their worst moments, their psychological profiles. Someone who'd use that trust to kill Parker, Donnelly, Frost, and Brennan. She touched the dog tags under her hospital gown. Still there, still present, still waiting for justice. "Tomorrow," she whispered. "Tomorrow we finish this." The next 24 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Diana was released from medical with strict orders to take it easy. She ignored them, forcing her body through basic movements, testing her limits, preparing for whatever came next. Lieutenant Callahan brought her a dress uniform, properly fitted, with no rank insignia yet. "Commander Garrison's orders. You'll get your captain's bars during the ceremony." Diana dressed carefully, wincing at every movement. The uniform felt strange after 5 years of field clothes and camouflage. It felt like putting on someone else's skin, someone she used to be before El Paso, before the betrayal, before everything burned down. But it also felt right, like coming home after a long deployment. She hung the 4 dog tags around her neck, tucking them under her shirt where they'd rested for 5 years. Parker, Donnelly, Frost, Brennan. They'd be with her when Morse was taken down. At 1400 hours, the base assembled on the parade ground. Hundreds of soldiers, officers, support staff, everyone who knew the story of the ghost who'd returned from the dead. Diana stood at attention near the podium, scanning faces in the crowd, looking for Morse, looking for any sign of threat. There, far right near the medical tents, chaplain's uniform, gray hair, weathered face that might have been kind once, but now carried something hollow behind the eyes. Edmund Morse, watching the ceremony with apparent interest. Watching her. Colonel Harrison Thorne stepped to the podium. The crowd fell silent. "Today we honor extraordinary service performed under impossible circumstances," Thorne began. 5 years ago, Captain Diana Blackwell and her team were investigating terrorist networks that threatened our nation. They were betrayed, sold out to their enemies, and killed in an ambush that should never have happened. Diana watched Morse's face. No reaction. Perfect control. 4 soldiers died that night: Lieutenant James Parker, Sergeant Maria Donnelly, Corporal Andrew Frost, and Staff Sergeant Michael Brennan. Their families were told they fell in classified operations, serving their country with honor. Thorne paused, letting the weight of those words settle over the assembly. But one soldier survived. Captain Diana Blackwell lived through that ambush, and rather than come forward, rather than seek help or safety, she chose to hunt the people responsible. For 5 years, she operated alone, with no support, no backup, no official sanction. She tracked terrorist coordinator Victor Salazar across 2 countries in 3 years. She eliminated 62 members of his network. She gathered intelligence that prevented what would have been the largest terrorist attack on American soil since 9/11. The crowd was absolutely silent now. Diana's eyes never left Morse. Captain Blackwell captured Salazar 2 days ago during an assault on this base that she helped us defeat. She climbed an impossible cliff face, fought through professional hunters and trained guards, and took the target alive despite being wounded multiple times. Thorne's voice carried across the parade ground with absolute authority. "Today, we restore what was taken from her. Today, Captain Diana Blackwell comes back from the dead." Movement. Morse was shifting position, moving toward the detention block. Not running, walking with purpose, like he belonged there. Diana keyed her radio quietly. "He's moving,"